So we've had this discussion now for 3 years about John Collins potentially being traded. And, I've talked to Steve Koonin. Our afternoon show has Steve Koonin on a regular basis every week. And they've talked to him for years. And I've talked to Steve when I filled in on the show and stuff. And, we've had these discussions about, hey, when your name is always in the news for potentially being traded. And literally, if you Google John Collins, okay, put John Collins into your search browser and click the news button at the top, top heading up there, right? Your search thing, whatever your thingamajiggy and the Google machine and all that stuff. Hit the news button, and literally everything is about Collins being traded. This rumor, this scenario, and it's good fodder for everybody, right? It's all the blue checkmark media that have all this fodder. And look, I was at the Hawks draft party, okay? It was a fait accompli that John Collins was going to get traded on draft night. And then when that didn't happen, well, he'll be moved very quickly afterward. He'll be moved in a very short period of time. Well, that didn't happen, you know? And I wonder if it takes a toll on these players. I mean, I've talked to Steve Koonin about this, that, when guys hear their name about being on the move all the time, there can be some effect on there. I mean, they are human after all, and they're not just a commodity. And the Hawks have drafted John Collins. He's a part of the fabric of this organization. They gave him a big money contract, $125 million contract to keep him here. And then when you immediately hear that he's moving, traded, all this good kind of stuff out there, it does make you wonder if it's had an effect on what he's done on the court this year. So if you look at Collins's numbers, he has his lowest scoring average since his rookie year, 13 and a half points per game, which is the lowest since he averaged 10 and a half points per game in his rookie year. In fact, it's been a 4-year decline for John Collins. He's had a 4-year decline in his scoring average from when he was in his third year in the league, 21.6 to 17.6 to 16.2, down to 13.5. His rebounds have stayed pretty much the same for the last 3 years, 7.4, 7.8, and this year 7.7. Where he's really struggled is his three-point shooting. And we've talked about this, that he's hooked up way too many threes. Here's the thing, okay? He's shooting 25.9% from three. Last year, he shot 36.4%. The year before that, he shot 39.9%. And the year before that, he shot 40.1%. So he's had a 4-year decline in his three-point shooting, yet his three-point shooting remains consistent as far as number of shots that he's taken. And he doesn't take a lot, but sometimes it's in inopportune times for John Collins to take some of his threes out there. His field goal percentage overall, that's been on a 4-year decline from 58%, 55, 52, down to 51% overall for his field goal percentage. There's just a lot of things that are not trending in the right direction from John Collins. And you wonder about whether or not that this trade, all the trade and speculations and the deals that are out there, because look, there are plenty of legitimate, reliable NBA sources that have him linked to trades. I mean, Shams Charania and guys like that, they always have him linked to some type of trade, and that the team is in talks and this, that, and the other. And again, I have fun with the blue checkmark media, but those guys get stories right. I mean, it's not like that they go, oh, for the world. It's just in John Collins' case, they've gone, oh, for the world on all of it. But you wonder about the effect because his play has regressed over the last 4 years. Now, look, adding Trae Young, this year, DeJounte Murray, let's face it, we thought that Collins would be the beneficiary of, okay, Trey and DeJounte, facilitators. They can get the ball to John Collins. They can get him, help his scoring average, and they can certainly feed him the basketball more. And it just hasn't worked itself out. Just hasn't worked itself out. But this has been a 4-year regression from John Collins. And the reality is that when you hear stories about, are teams really interested in trading for John Collins? That teams that are in the market maybe for John Collins would have to get a sweet deal in return. That John Collins, for the money that he makes, they missed their window. And that's probably the bottom line. That if you were going to move on from John Collins, you probably missed your window in all of this. You should have maybe traded him coming off the Eastern Conference Finals and in some type of sign and trade deal, but you've kind of missed your window and your opportunity. So now where he's taken this step backward for 3-4 years, and he's maybe not the same player that he once was. And then obviously, you're getting older, and look, he's not old. He's 25 years old, but still you start to accumulate the years on it. Then you start to get, older, and, you don't have your youth. I mean, look, in basketball terms, youth, but he still should be a primetime player, and he should be maybe not thriving. Maybe that's not the right word, but his play should certainly be better. He just doesn't have the impact on games anymore. And this has been for a few years now, that he just hasn't had the same impact on games. Trey's the best player. DeJounte Murray is the MVP. Where does John Collins fit in all this kind of stuff? Because, again, he's paid like a guy at $25 million per year, and that is a part of it. If you're Tony Wrestler and you're sitting back and looking at John Collins and the production and everything like that, you think about those things, right? You think about those things. And then, if you're not producing, and you have that contract on you, you have to be figuring that in John Collins' mind that, if you've heard for 2-3 years, whatever, that I'm going to be traded, I'm going to be moved, I'm going to be, off. And look, GMs can, I don't want to say lie to your face, but they can have those conversations with you about the reality of, are you going to be moved or not be moved? But if the right deal comes along, you move them out, you ship them out. So it's got to be frustrating for John. And this has been a pattern of, for the last few years, that John Collins has just been not as productive on the court. He's not shooting as well. I like John. I think he's a good player. Is he a star? No. Is he, is the value there for the contract that he makes? I don't know. DeAndre Hunter got $23 million a year, and he's a 15-5 guy. Maybe John Collins is turning into that, but certainly John should have been a bigger part of what this offensive philosophy is. And, we talk about DeJounte and Trey not melding well together. Maybe John's kind of the odd man out in all of this. It's got to be frustrating to hear every day that he's going to be traded. All right, besides making Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery your first listen every day, make sure you make Locked On Sports Today your second listen. Biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts from.